Hey everybody, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Welcome if you're new and welcome back if you've been here before. Y'all, this is an emergency removal video. On this video, we are out here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's very dreary outside and we are in between rain spurts because we are coming out here to retrieve and claim our onions. So in this video, we're gonna harvest as many onions as we can. I feel a sprinkle. Let's get it going. If you are new here, my name is Barbara. I live in Tennessee. I'm in Zone 7B, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you are new, please say hello. Let me know what city and state you're coming in from so I can say hello back to you. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for continuing to watch the channel. Y'all, let's see how many onions we can get, and then I will voice over and I will talk about the kind of onions I'm doing, why I'm doing it, but this is emergency removal of the onions because the reason is that we have another 8 to 10 days scheduled of rain. And if I leave these onions in here, there's a high likely chance that they're going to rot because they are ready and they've been ready. So let's get to it. Okay, before I turned the camera on, my husband had pulled one. That thing is big. Huge. It is so big. Okay, we got to keep going. So just to give you some context, we had 15 days of rain consecutively straight. And then last week we had 3 days of sunshine. And so we tried to do as much as we could in those 3 days of sunshine, but obviously we're very behind. And now in the forecast, we have another 12 days of rain. So that is why this is an emergency removal of the onions. These onions I planted in the ground at the beginning of March. The variety I planted is candy onions. It is a yellow onion variety, and I did starts from Dixondale Farms. That is the only place where I have bought onion starts from. I have bought from them for the last 4 years, and that I have been highly successful with their starts. I've never had an issue. The onions that we are pulling, I will tell you right now, these are the biggest onions I have ever grown. And I also feel like it's a redemption from last year because last year, if you remember, if you were here, my onions were not as big and I did a couple of new varieties, which there's nothing against with doing varieties because that's how you learn what you like and what you don't like. And it also gives you information about what grows best in your area. But definitely candy has always been a fan favorite and one that performs well for me. But specifically the onions that I grew in this same bed last year, they did okay, but they were not nearly as big as these. These were some big ones, and I'm so grateful. Now you will see that this bed is full of weeds. Now I will tell you, it is not ideal to grow onions and weeds, or any crop for that matter, with weeds, but especially onions because they need the space to grow. So it is definitely not ideal, and sometimes the weeds can choke out your onions where they're not as big. I'll just tell you, in this case, the Lord had favor because that was not the case with this. And the weeds, y'all, 15 days of rain, there's so many weeds, there's so many things that are behind that we just were not able to stay on top of. And I'm pretty sure this is the only place out of all of my gardens. If you're new, I have 3 main gardening spaces. This space is actually behind my house. We have 5 raised beds. This is really the only place that I struggle the most with weeds. This, and then I have a couple of beds in an outside garden along a fence where my husband cuts the grass. And I really believe like it's the grass seed or something that gets in here and just kind of grows like grass. But you can see, y'all, it is full of weeds. But yet we still have food because food wants to grow. Look at that, y'all. These by far are the biggest onions I have ever grown. Okay. There's another stack there. We're still in the first bed. Y'all, that's the aftermath. That's the first bed. We have that whole yellow tote is full and that red tote is full. We don't have time to count right now, but I just want you to see how many weeds were in this bed. Y'all, food wants to grow. It wants to grow. Now we have a second bed back here that we're gonna hurry up and do. So this is the second bed of onions that I have behind the house. And as I'm editing this video, I remembered that I had planted some onions in one of my green stalks, which I checked them last week. They were not nearly as big, and I actually planted those a couple of weeks behind those, so they're not necessarily ready but I'm just wondering if I should pull those. So the reason why I'm calling this an emergency removal is when you are doing onions or any type of root crop, if it gets waterlogged or too wet once it's mature, it can easily rot. And so they were already ready at the end of last week, and the plan was to harvest the onions this week to be, right on time. And the reason why I didn't harvest them last week before the rain stopped is because it was raining so much, and they were still within their window of being ready. And so for candy onions, they're typically ready between 80 to 90 days. The day that I'm actually harvesting is, I think, like day 89, so it's right there. But if I were to wait another 10 or 12 days of constant rain, the soil was already wet because it rained 15 days before and it had not had a chance to dry out. So if I were to let it rain another 12 days and they sit in the ground, I really ran the risk of them rotting. And so I did not want to do that. So whether they're small, big, which you'll see the majority of them are huge, past big, I did not want to take the risk of losing any of my onions. Now, the candy variety is an intermediate day onion. When it comes to onions, you have short day onions, long day onions, and intermediate onions. And so intermediate is kind of like in the middle. And the short and long day, all that means is just the length of daylight hours that the onions need to bulb. And so if you don't know what kind of onions you should be growing, you can go to dixondalefarms.com and they have a map. Even if you don't want to buy from them, they have a map that tells you what type of onions, depending on where you live geographically. But do y'all see how big these onions are? These onions are absolutely huge. Now, the candy variety is one of my favorites. It's sweet. It is a good, consistent producer, but however, it is not a storage onion. Now, I will store these in my root cellar that you'll see later on in this video. And the storage capability is about 3 months is what it says on the website. For me, I usually can get them to last in my root cellar about 6 months. But once I see them starting to go bad, what I do is that I just put them in my food processor, chop them up, and then I freeze them and use them that way. So I still don't go without onions. I just don't have them fresh. And so if you're looking for more of a storage variety, so just make sure that you know what kind of onions you grew or are growing. If you want something that's going to last a little bit longer. They do have some storage variety onions, but I don't grow those because I like these. But there's definitely several different options. This basket, y'all, is overflowing, and we are still picking onions. Now let's talk about how we're going to actually store and cure the onions. And my husband is taking the first batch to our root cellar, and I'll meet you in the root cellar and we'll talk about how we're going to actually store these. So this is the inside of our root cellar. If you've been here, you've seen this before. You can see behind me, that's our garlic that we harvested last week. If you didn't see my garlic harvesting video, I'll pop it up here at the top. You can go watch it, but we brought them in here, and the garlic has only been in here for about 3 days. Yep, our 3 days of sunshine that we got some stuff done. And I don't know if you can tell, but they're already drying and curing very nicely. Like you can tell that some of the greenery has turned brown on the garlic. They were just as green as these onions. So I had started putting the onions on this board, but then my husband was like, hey, let's put some boxes down. I'm like, I had forgotten that part. So I pull up the onions so that we can put some boxes down and lay the cardboard down so the onions can actually lay on top of the cardboard instead of laying directly on the pallet. So we lay some more cardboard out on this pallet, and the cardboard just makes it easier to lay the onions and any food that you're preserving down so that it doesn't fall through the slats. And so that's what we do to lay the onions out. So we try to do the onions as much of a single line as we possibly can. There is some overlap, but one of the things you want to do is make sure that you have ventilation, and so that's why you don't want to have a lot of overlap. You want to try to do it in a single space. Now, for those of you who don't have a root cellar, because I realize that's not something that is very common, you can do the same things in terms of curing your onions or your garlic. You just need a place that is away from direct sunlight, a place that is cool, and a place that is ventilated. So it could be a covered porch, it could be a basement, it could be a garage, wherever you find. I've even seen some people will hang them up on one of their shelves that they do their seedlings on and just kind of hang them in between. Now, keep in mind, if that's going to be in your house, that's going to have quite the odor. But again, whatever works for you. Now, these onions that I'm doing, these are from the back of my house. After you see us do this, you're going to see us harvest even more onions because I have more onion beds in my outside garden. Those particular onions in my outside garden, I'm not going to bring into the root cellar just because it's a distance to get them all up here. And so for those, I actually let them cure in my high tunnel. I did that last year and it worked out just fine. But again, this is close proximity to the backyard and the garden, so we just lay them out here. It usually takes, I would say, on average about 3 weeks, and they will start to cure. You can see now how the tops are really, really, really green. And so what will happen is the onions will again develop a little bit more. It won't be as papery thin on the outer shell of the onion, and then all the green will kind of turn brown and stiff and not fresh looking. Now, do you have to cure your onions in order for you to eat them? No, you don't. You can take your onions right from the garden, take them into your house, wash them and eat them and use them as is. I'm only doing this method because I am trying to store these longer term. But let's say I needed an onion tonight for dinner. I can literally take one of these onions, take it in the house, wash it off, and use it right away. So you don't have to cure it in order to eat it. Also, if I was taking these onions in the house and using them right away, I would also use that green part, right? You could chop that up and use that for like a chive, use it in soups, in scrambled eggs, in stews, or whatever you would want some onion flavor. So you definitely would not want to waste that top. Now for me, because I'm curing them, then the green part won't be green by the time it's done. So it won't be necessarily edible. But if I was using these fresh, that's exactly what I would do. And just like you can see the garlic over to the right, the garlic has been in here. At this point of the video, that garlic had only been in here like 3 days. And you can see it was already starting to cure. It doesn't take long for that curing process to start once you pull it up out of the ground, because you can see how green those onion tops are. That's how green the garlic tops were. And you can see they're already yellowing, turning brown. And of course you can't feel it, but they are becoming more stiff and all of that. So I'll show you the final as we keep going. But we're just working through it and getting all these onions out. I'm so blessed and so grateful that we had the time and enough sunlight today. Well, not sunlight, but we had not a rain shower, and we were able to get this done. Y'all, look at this site. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They look so good. These are by far the biggest onions I have ever grown. And I can't really tell you that I did anything different. I did the same process that I normally do. But you know, it's like that sometimes. So again, this variety is from Dixondale Farms. These are the candy onions. I've grown them for the last 4 years. They're always a winner. Last year I went off the reservation and I added a couple of new varieties. I think I did the Texas Sweet, which was not good for my area. They did just not do well. Now, candy has always done well, and I've always had some big ones. But I would say overall, generally, the entire harvest was big. That might be the smallest one there, but the pictures don't even do it justice. Okay, y'all, so now we're out in the outside garden where we have onions as well. Same thing, it's sprinkling, it stops sprinkling, it comes back sprinkling, has not come into a full force rain. So we're gonna see how many onions, no, we're gonna get all these onions, not we're gonna see, we're about to get all these onions. That's what we're about to do, that's out here. So you saw that behind the house, we had 2 raised beds full of onions, and out here we have, I wanna say 3 raised beds. 2 for a fact that I know that should be ready, but let's just see what we have. So, you saw that the onions up by the house, we put in the root cellar. We have a wagon down here that we're gonna harvest the onions in, and then we're gonna put those in the hot tunnel. All right, y'all. These are not as big. Well, some of them are not. That is huge. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. That is big. So this long bed is full of onions and also weeds. Again, the weeds are a challenge for a couple of reasons. My husband cuts the grass obviously right along this edge or weed eat. So I think grass seeds just get in these. But then also, just because it's been raining, we haven't been able to keep up with weeding. We don't, I can't complain with all of the garden spaces that we have. We deal very little with weeds. It's just usually in these beds that might be by the fence line or in my backyard. Other than that, the weeds are usually kept at pretty much of a minimum, which is great. But one of the things I was telling my husband as we were doing this, there's something about pulling an onion out of the ground. If you've harvested onions before, it makes like this little sound, almost like you can like hear the tug is the best way I know how to explain it. It's almost like a tug and a pop, and I just absolutely love it. I think anytime you're harvesting root crops, meaning things that grow below the ground, onions, garlic, carrots, beets, things like that, potatoes, it's always just a surprise. You don't know what you're going to get. Look at that, y'all. Do you see that? That is a beautiful onion that we were able to grow ourselves. Now, you'll see by the end of this onion harvest, I think we counted and the number was around, we were already at like 200, I think, and 50 onions. And then we still have more that we didn't harvest on this video. We only focused on the things that were outside, but I still have some onions in my high tunnel, not as many as I have out here. And then I forgot that I also have a green stalk that's full of onions, but those onions are not ready. But y'all, this was so satisfying, so grateful. We had to endure some rain, but we were okay with that. Now look at these potatoes, y'all. Yep, they're ready to come out too. So after the onions, we're gonna do these. Hubby is finishing up bed number 1. We have quite a bit ran into an ant pile. That's why he took over. We have a second bed here. You can see again, the weeds are a challenge, but guess what? We still have onions. Not ideal, but y'all, I cannot get over. These onions are much bigger than what you find in the store. Much bigger. My husband said you're gonna have onions for days. And I will. But like most cooks or people that do the cooking, you use a lot of onions for all kinds of things. Every last one of them will be used. Every last one of them. Y'all, this soil is so wet. I'm pulling it up and water is literally running down the thing. Literally. Okay, y'all, we got all the onions. I'll show you those. But again, remember this emergency, so we're moving fast. We're now harvesting our potatoes that's out here because they have definitely turned brown. They were not like this last week. I'll give you the specs of what I ordered and stuff and how long they've been in the ground. I'll do that probably on the voiceover. But for now, I'm going to help my husband get these potatoes and see how many we have. Y'all, this is what I call emergency removal. It is sprinkling. I've already had to change shirts once. It's wet, but it's not raining enough to run you in the house. It's just sprinkling, and we're just enduring and getting it out. I don't know if you can see a little bit of the garden behind me, but y'all, I cannot wait to give you a garden tour. Things are looking so good, so lush, and it's changing so fast. I feel like you've already missed so many moments, but just
man, it's hard to do a tour when you're having rain constantly every day. But in terms of the potatoes, I planted these in March. I did a variety of Yukon Gold, a red potato, and russets. I don't think I have any russets out here. I think I put the russets in the hot tunnel. I think out here it's just Yukon Gold and then a red potato. I'll get you the variety name and pop it up here on the screen. But these are all from Wood Prairie Family Farm. That's where I get my organic seed potatoes. And for me, this will be the first of many harvests. So I still have 2 beds of potatoes in the hot tunnel, or a bed and a half. And so we'll harvest those, because we can harvest those anytime once. It doesn't matter that it's raining, because it's going to be on the inside. So that's why on this video, we were just literally concentrating on what was outside and just trying to get things before they rotted. But I'll take you along on that video when we harvest the stuff that's on the inside as well. But for seed potatoes, I do a planting in the spring, and then I will also do another one in the fall. So we'll be right back out here probably in 2 months planting potatoes again. So in Zone 7B, I tried this 2 years ago and it worked. And so I did it last year and it worked. And so now it's official that it works, that you can plant a fall crop of potatoes. So usually I get them in the ground, I would say maybe the first week of August. I think this is when I did it. And then I was able to harvest them before the first frost, which is in October. They may be a little bit on the smaller side depending on when you get them in the ground, but it's another round of potatoes. And so that works out really, really, really great. These beds, again, is where I've done the potatoes generally in the fall. And so we'll see what space we have available by the time that comes around. But these potatoes are, I would say, on the smaller side. I went back to check my dates, and I did not, for whatever reason, I did not write down when I did this bed. I only wrote down when I did the beds in the hot tunnel. And so these were on the smaller side. It's what you would probably call new potatoes. We had some that were a medium size, but that's okay. They were all potatoes. They all look great. And so I'm excited and happy to have this harvest. So we just keep going down this bed. We actually have 2 beds of potatoes to do. So we just keep trudging along, and I'll let you see the final harvest.
Y'all, this is the basket or wagon full of those 2 beds of onions. We haven't counted these. We'll have to do another count. It's at least the same amount. At least. But it is full. And then this is the basket of potatoes we got. They're on the smaller side. I have some that are a decent size, but most of them I would say are medium, small to medium size. This is the size of the container. This is the new Vago Garden, one of their harvesting baskets that I love. It has handles, it's durable. So I would say this is about half full.
And there's our huge wagon full of onions that my husband is going to take into the hot tunnel.
So I have one more bed outside of onions that I only pulled, you can see here, I pulled, I don't know, like 5 or 6, but they're not ready. I planted this bed last. This is a whole bed of red onions. I have to go back and see when I planted it, but it was at least 3 weeks behind the other ones, and the other ones are just now ready. And so I pulled some just to see what size they were. They were pretty small. And so I'm debating, do I pull them even though they're small, or do I let them get bigger even though it's raining? I don't know. Let me pull one so that you can see, since you didn't see. And again, because I use red onions, not as frequent as yellow, I'm not as pressed if they don't get big. Like you can see, that's a small, I mean, it's a small size. It's not even a medium, it's small. The camera may be making it look bigger, but if you see my hand, it's probably 1/4 of the diameter of my hand. So it's definitely still an edible onion. I'm just wondering, should I let them get bigger? I'll take this one in the house. I think I'm gonna take a chance and let these get bigger and see what happens, because they're not even ready yet in terms of their maturity. So I think that's what we'll do. Y'all, I can just say the garden looks absolutely amazing. With all of the rain, it looks so pretty, so lush. My sunflowers Our set of my sunflowers have bloomed. I cannot wait to give you a garden tour, y'all, if I ever can get out here and give you one. We just harvested a huge zucchini. It's starting to rain. I see 2 clusters of cucumbers. I see squash that needs to be harvested. So, wow, 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 wow. The rain can be a blessing. It's not a curse, but too much of anything, you know, can be bad because you can deal with a lot of fungal issues when there's a lot of rain. But Max, get out of here. Max and just he walking on into the garden. Oh, he's probably trying to hide from the rain. That's probably what he's doing. But anyway, y'all, we got our onions, we got our potatoes. Now we still have potatoes inside the hot tunnel. We have 2 beds of those. I have to go take a look and see if they're turning brown, but of course they're protected. They're not going to get rain, so they're good to go when it comes to the potatoes. And then also I have some onions in there and some of the beds that we will still have to harvest, but they're fine. They don't have to worry about being rotted because they're not being rained on. So I'm glad that we were able to get it accomplished. If I had to guess, I'll probably have at least 300 onions. I'll have to do a final count and let you know, but we have 120 or so just from the back of the house, and I'm sure that we have just as much out here. So that would be like 240. Then I have some in the greenhouse. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me on this emergency retrieval of the onions and surprise potatoes. I didn't even think the potatoes were going to be, but we went ahead and got what we could. And again, they're on the smaller side, but that's okay. That is okay. Some food is better than no food. And I'd rather have some than me come out here in a week and they're all rotted. That would really hurt my feelings. That would really hurt my feelings. So I encourage you, if you're in an area that's getting a lot of rain and you feel like your stuff is ready, take this as your sign to go get your stuff if it's outside in between a rain shower. I'm getting rained on, but this is what we do when we are gardeners. I hope that your gardeners are doing fantastic. I hope that you and I can spend some time together outside very, very soon without fear of rain and me running in and out and piecing together videos. But until then, remember, this is a journey. Let's do it together. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for stopping by our channel. I invite you to go to our website, livingfoodsfarm.com, and peruse around and see if there's something that you might want to purchase on our site. We have a ton of digital resources, but we also sell sourdough starters. We also sell salves, insect spray, and our famous jalapeno salt is always available in the throes of the summer. So take a look around, and I would love if you would just take a look and stop by. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video.